When a new IP gets positive reception, it's likely the creators will produce a sequel, and it can go two ways. Either it's used for improving over what didn't work the first time around, as well as innovate new concepts, or it may be done in a half-baked manner and completely miss the mark on what made the original special. Colony Wars may have been received well in 1997, but if you saw my review you would know it hasn't held up. Therefore, I was hoping Colony Wars Vengeance would be a step up over the previous game. So has it, you may ask? Well, short answer is yes, but not without critique. Set a century after the original, the League of Free Worlds was able to breach Sol in hope of defeating the Earth's colonial navy and gain independence. Realising their efforts were futile, the League withdrew from Sol, closing the warpole behind them, leaving their opposition without fresh resources, causing civil war, poverty and famine. As the title implies, you play from the Navy's perspective. Specifically, you take control of Mertens, and with Kron as the faction leader, they attempt to break out of Sol to gain retribution. If I had to describe Colony Wars Vengeance on a superficial level, is that it's taken a streamlined approach in design and gameplay. The controls are identical from the first game, but now you benefit from an extra crosshair indicating where your lasers would go, which means you don't have to be at point blank to eliminate enemies, and friendly fire is no longer a concern thanks to better AI. Additionally, by pressing the R1 button, your ship accelerates for a short time, a useful feature when getting from or to objectives quickly. Allied capital ships are more resilient this time around, so you don't have to protect them at all times. The branching paths from its predecessor have made a return, and just as before, they determine what missions you do, as well as what ending you'll witness depending on your performance. Not to mention, saving progress can only be done once every 3 missions. However, if a level gets finished successfully, you're awarded with upgrade tokens for your ship, making it more efficient in battle. Unfortunately, Vengeance has less playable craft when compared to its predecessor, and once the last one is unlocked, you'll be investing all of your points into that ship, making the other options redundant. On the other hand, the game has even more mission variety than before, and sometimes you'll take on the odd ground-based level. Their quantity may have been reduced, but they're offset by their length, whereas before they could have been finished in a matter of minutes. Some levels, however, can be vague on how they should be completed, in addition of being unfair. One mission, for instance, I had to destroy a mining facility with asteroids with my grapple gun, but as they came to a stop when released, something that doesn't happen in reality, the only solution is to approach the target at a specific angle and hope that asteroid would make contact, which doesn't help the fact that you're on a time limit, and there are many other levels where you're forced to make haste. Another mission I did was to investigate a distress beacon, only for my party to be ambushed by a League destroyer and its fighters. While it was possible to destroy the ship, I had to factor in the fighters that were attacking my allies, as my foes had a numerical advantage, thus making my accomplishment based on luck than skill. Because missions are much longer due to their reduction in quantity, not only are friendly ships more durable as I pointed out, the enemies too got the same treatment, and they can still hit you with a single laser blast, taking a chunk of your HP without warning. Yes, destroying their components is possible to eliminate them, but you still have their subordinates flying around, and you only have a limited amount of secondary ammo. This, combined with the inability of saving after every mission, can lead towards frustration. For the branching paths, you don't have to switch discs for replaying a specific act, and all upgrades that have been applied for ships don't get reset, so there's no need to redo upgrading their performance. In other words, it's the game's way of providing new game plus. Ultimately, you'll be shooting your enemies with anti-shield and conventional lasers, but just as before, secondary weapons are available, though predetermined for each operation. At least you won't have to use the same combination over and over. The leech beam in particular can drain shield energy and add it to your ship, which is a godsend since the first game didn't have such ability. I just wish a tutorial mode was implemented, or have training missions from its predecessor. Although the controls haven't changed much, a tutorial mode shouldn't be trivial no matter what changes are made. Granted, the game's manual provides the necessary information, but even so, the training missions from Colony Wars was a way of getting accustomed to your ship, which was important when your actions could influence the narrative. That said, the graphics are a step up, and I didn't notice any textures becoming transparent, even up close. As for the ship models, they too got a makeover, and yes, the Star Trek clones are no longer present, with new authentic designs taking their place. The music in Vengeance is just as good, and the sound design for the weapons and explosions also get a plus, though the voice acting sadly is still hit and miss. Sometimes they sound decent while others come off hand-fisted, and why does the main character make odd screams during battle? It's a shame because Vengeance has interesting themes as you uncover the multiple endings it has to offer, and soon learn the League is no different than the Colonial Navy. That's not to say its storytelling is Shakespeare quality, because it's not, but for a 21-year-old game, Psygnosis should be applauded by making both factions grounded, in addition of tackling dark themes instead of the good versus evil narrative. One thing I do miss from the 97 game is the databases that told you about the Colony Wars universe, as well as the ships you could pilot and encounter during your playthrough. However, after mulling it over, this might have been a necessary evil for streamline purposes, assuming that was their philosophy during development. Overall, Colony Wars Vengeance is a step up as it improves some key areas but retains annoyances that plagued its predecessor. The fact leading shots is possible because of the extra reticule, missions having more variety, allies aren't so fragile, and it being visually more pleasing for a late 90s release. The devs clearly wanted to make their next episode superior. It's just too bad the so-so voice acting dampens the story, lacks a tutorial section, and some mission objectives being too vague in addition of being cheap. Allowing users to select and upgrade their ships between levels is a nice touch, but the linear system eventually makes the starter craft obsolete, unless you replay levels for easy tokens or to explore the other branching paths. As I mentioned, sequels can go two ways, and it seems Psygnosis took the former option, but of course game development isn't straightforward, even for games that are over 2 decades old. Yet the series came back, and it did so with a vengeance.